Hi everyone, and welcome to the TAMRIEL Storyteller Hour, and I am Flower Child 567. And hey, Visionary! Oh, I just have to say a thank you for helping me last night with the Game Awards. And I have to apologize because I'm the one that totally messed up the stream, and I am really, really sorry about that. And for any viewers who were watching, I really feel bad that I cut us off, and I just want everyone to know that I had good intentions and I messed up entirely. So I learned that there was another way for me to tune into it, a special link just for me. And yes, and you really did help, and I so appreciate that, Visionary. Thank you for your kindness, really. Thank you for that. And I'm sure everybody was confused, like who's going on. So yeah, thanks a lot. Thank you so much. All right, you guys, I do hope that you were able to watch the Game Awards last night. There was some really exciting new shows premiered, and it was fun to see who the winners were. So that is our equivalent to the Oscars. And it was exciting. At one point, I did have to move away from my stream and walk away from it because it was getting me so overstimulated, because I was seeing all these new games that were attracting me, and all of a sudden it was like I saw the possibility that I could seriously run away from ESO for a while. And yeah, anyways, welcome to TAMRIEL Storyteller Hour. So let's go ahead and get started, because I have some fun things planned for you. So we're going to go ahead and light our candles and open up and get things going. Yeah. All right. So I want us to come over here today. Well, let me just share with you today what we're going to be what I'm going to be reading for you is called or is focused on our mad god. And maybe some of you instantly know his name, some of you don't. You're going to hear all about him today, but I am going to begin with one of the Daedric books, and I'm going to start reading out of it. Let me find it here. It's called The House of Troubles. So here we go. The House of Troubles. Among the ancient ancestral spirits who accompanied Saint Veloth and the Chimere into the promised land of Morrowind, the four Daedra lords, Malakath, Mehrunes, Dagon, Malagbal, and Sheogorath, are known as the four corners of the House of Troubles. These Daedra lords rebelled against the council and admonition of the tribunal, causing great kinstrife and confusion among the clans and great houses. Malakath, Mehrunes, Dagon, Malagbal, and Sheogorath are holy in that they serve the role of obstacles during the testing, and through time they have sometimes become associated with local enemies like the Nords, Akaviri, or mountain orcs. Malakath is the reanimated dung that was Trinimac. Malakath is a weak but vengeful god, and the dark elves say he is Malak, the god king of the orcs. he tests the Dunmer for physical weakness. Molag Bal is, in Morrowind, the Lord of Brutality. He tries to upset the bloodlines of great houses and otherwise ruins the Dunmer bloodline, a race of monsters said to live in Molag Amur, are the result of his seduction of Wabbajack during the previous era. Sheogorath is the king of madness. He always tests the Dunmer for mental weakness. In many legends, he is called upon by one Dunmer faction against another. In half of these stories, he does not betray those who called him, further confusing the issue of his place in the scheme of things. Can he help us? Is he not an obstacle? He is often associated with the fear other races have of the Dunmer, especially those who, like the Empire, might prove as useful allies. Mehrunes Dagon is the god of destruction, and he is associated with natural dangers like fire, earthquakes, and floods. To some, he represents the inhospitable land of Morrowind. He tests the Dunmer will to survive and persevere, and the worship of these four malevolent spirits is against the law and practice of the temple. However, the four corners seldom fail to discover those greedy, reckless, or mad enough to serve them. By ancient temple law and custom, and also by imperial law, the lives of witches and warlocks are forfeit. Imperial garrisons join ordinators and buoyant armigers of the temple in tracking down and destroying those foul covens in the wilderness refuse and ancient ruins where they conceal their profane worship. Well, I'm sure you've gathered now who our mad god is. And we're going to go down into the workshop space. But before we do, let me just anoint you a little bit so that as we venture by calling out and saying his name in story form, that you are protected. So let me find it here. Let's see. Where did I put that? Where did I put that? Would think I would know by now where it's at, but I don't seem to have it. Well, first, let me see something. Let me open the portal. Okay, the workshop portal is open. And no. Let me find it here. I know I have it. Ah, yes, here we have it. Let me sprinkle some glimmer dust so that we are all protected as we travel now down into the workshop. And as we come into the workshop, we want to come down into the books down here. And I brought out a couple of statues to share with you. Do you remember that last week we talked about two goddesses or Daedric princesses, the Night Mother and do you know who this one is? I have to read. the Night Mother, and let's see, Mephala, the web spinner. There they are, right there for you to look at. That's part of the Dark Brotherhood, right? Yeah. Okay, let's come over here. And we're going to read some of the books that are here. But before we do, I need to open it up so that we can read. With protection around us. Yes. We must do everything with proper ceremony. All right. We are going to read about the mad god, the myths of Sheogorath, and we have 2 books to read, Volume 1 and Volume 2. So let me just position myself and pull out Volume 1. Myths of Sheogorath, Volume 1 by Memorphinus. Sheogorath and King Linendir. King Linendir was known to be an exceedingly rational man. He lived in a palace that was a small, simple structure, unadorned with art and ugly to look upon. "I do not need more than this," he would say. "Why spend my gold on such luxuries when I can spend it on my armies or on great public works?" His kingdom prospered under his sensible rule. However, the people did not always share the king's sense of practicality. They would build houses that were beautiful to look upon, although not necessarily very practical. They devoted time and energy to works of art. They would celebrate events with lavish festivals. In general, they were quite happy. King Linendir was disappointed that more of them did not follow his example and lead frugal, sensible lives. He brooded on this for many years. Finally, he decided that his subjects simply didn't understand how much more they could accomplish if they didn't waste time on those frivolous activities. Perhaps, he reasoned, they just needed more examples. And the king decreed that all new buildings must be simply unadorned and no larger than was necessary for their function. The people were not happy about this, but they liked their king and respected the new law. In a few short years, there were more plain buildings than ornate ones, and the citizens used the money saved to make and buy even more lavish art and hold even more excessive celebrations. Once again, King Linendir decided to provide them a strict example of how beneficial it would be to use their time and resources for more practical purposes. He banned all works of art in the city, and the people were quite put out by this, but they knew that their king was doing what he thought was best for them. However, human nature is not so easily denied. In a few more years, the city was filled with plain, simple buildings and devoid of any sort of art. However, the people now had even more money and time to devote to their parties and festivals. And with a heavy heart, King Linendir decided that his people were to be treated like children. And like all children, they needed rules and discipline laid down by great figures of authority to make them understand what was truly important in life. He decreed that there should be no revelry in the city. Singing, dancing, and music were all banned. Even food and drink were limited to water and simple foodstuffs. The people had had enough of revolt was out of the question, since King Lyrandir had a very well-trained and equipped army. They visited the shrines and temples in droves, praying to all the gods and even to some of the Daedric princes that King Lyrandir would revoke these new oppressive laws. Sheogorath heard their pleas and decided to visit King Lyrandir. He appeared to the king in his dreams as a field of flowers, each with arms instead of petals, and the face of the mad god in the center. "Woohoo! I am Lord of the Creative and Lord of the Deranged. Since you have no use for my gifts of creativity, I have decided to bless you with an abundance of other gifts." And from that day forward, every child born in the city was born into madness. And since infants do not reveal illnesses of the mind, it was several years before this was realized. And the king's own son was among the victims suffering from seizures and delusions. Yet King Lyrandir refused to change his ways. When his son Glint was 12 years old, he stabbed his father while Lyrandir was sleeping. And with his dying breath, King Lyrandir asked, "Why?" His son replied, "It is the most practical thing I could do." The new young king ordered all the palace servants slaughtered. He ordered a grand festival to celebrate his new reign and the repeal of Lyrandir's laws, and he served the crowds a stew made from the carcass of the palace servants. He ordered the east-facing walls of every building painted red, and the west-facing walls painted in stripes. He decreed that all citizens wear ornate masks on the backs of their heads. He then burned down the palace and began construction of a new one. In the new palace, the young king ordered his personal chambers to not have any doors for fear that small woodland creatures would attack him. He ordered that it have no windows for fear that the sun and moon were jealous of him and plotting his death. And thus ended the line of King Lyrandir. The people of the city returned to their grand works of art and raucous celebrations. They talked and acted as if they still had a living king, and even kept up the palace, using it to house and care for their mad children. Sheogorath was mightily pleased with this outcome, and from that day forward the city was blessed with more than the normal number of gifted artists and deranged citizens. Wow, he sounds like a really interesting god, doesn't he? Mad god. I have met him, I should tell you that. Yes, I have met him. There is a mad god quest that we get to do. Have you done it? Maybe by the end I'll tell you what it is and where it is. All right, let's go on and read Myths of Sheogorath Volume 2. Myths of Sheogorath Volume 2 by Menmophonus. Sheogorath invents music. In the earliest of days, in a time when the world was still raw, Sheogorath decided to walk amongst the mortals. He donned his guise of gentleman with a cane and moved from place to place without being recognized. After 11 days and 11 nights, Sheogorath decided that life among mortals was even more boring than his otherworldly existence. "What can I do to make their lives more interesting?" he said to himself. And at that same moment, a young woman nearby commented wistfully to herself, "Ah, the sounds of the birds are so beautiful." Sheogorath silently agreed with her. Mortals could not make the beautiful and inspired calls of birds. Their voices were wretched and mundane. He could not change the nature of mortals, for that was the purview of other Daedric princes. However, he could give them tools to make beautiful sounds. Sheogorath took hold of the petulant woman and ripped her asunder. And from her tendons he made lutes. From her skulls and arm bones he made a drum. And from her bones he made flutes. He presented these gifts to the mortals, and thus music was born. The Contest of Wills. A mighty wizard named Ravat once walked the winds of time to find Lord Sheogorath. His intent was to win a favor from this most capricious of the Daedric princes. And upon finding Sheogorath, Ravat spoke humbly to him. "Lord Sheogorath, I beg a favor of you. I would gladly drive 1,000 men mad in your name if you would but grant me the greater magical powers." Fortunately for Ravat, Sheogorath was in a playful mood. He proposed a game. "Ho-ho! I will grant your wish if you are still sane in 3 days. And during that time, I will do my utmost to drive you mad. It shall be great fun." Ravat was not so certain that he liked this new deal. He had been really looking forward to driving 1,000 men mad. "Lord Sheogorath, I regret having disturbed you with my shallow, selfish request. I withdraw my unfortunate plea and will humbly leave this place." Sheogorath just laughed. "Hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo! Too late, mighty Ravat. The game is afoot, and you must play." Ravat fled, only to find that all exits from the Daedric realm were now sealed, and he wandered aimlessly, constantly looking over his shoulder, jumping at every noise. Each moment he brought new terror as he waited for Sheogorath to begin. After 3 days, Ravat was convinced that every plant and animal was a tool of Sheogorath. He hadn't eaten or drunk for fear that Sheogorath had poisoned the food or drink. He hadn't slept for fear of Sheogorath invading his dreams, which was foolish, as dreams are the domain of Verminia. May she grant us restful sleep. It was then that Sheogorath appeared to him. Ravat cried out, "You have set the whole world to watching me. Every creature and plant are doing your bidding to drive me mad." Sheogorath replied, "Ho-ho! Actually, I've done nothing. You have driven yourself mad with your fears. Your delusions prove that you are truly deranged, and therefore I win, I win, I win. And while you wanted to make 1,000 men mad, I only wanted to break one man's mind. Yours! Ahoo!" And from that day forward, Ravat served Sheogorath's every whim. And whenever daring travelers try to approach Sheogorath, Ravat warns them, "Sheogorath is already inside each of us. You have already lost." Oh my gosh. So, I did meet Sheogorath, and, I felt that, I did feel that there was a perfect festival that should be actually his, and I gave him a gift. I said, "Here is a most precious box for you." And he laughed, he laughed, he laughed when he saw the playfulness of my gift to him. And then he said, "Well, I have a gift for you." And this is what he gave me. And I was quite interested in it until, well, look at how beautiful it is, but I don't, what the hell? What is this mess? What? It's all illusion. Ah, well. Oh, well. Well, let me continue. There's another fun book I've got on the shelf called Wabbajack. It kind of makes me think of him. So that's why I thought I would read it. Because why not? Wabbajack, little boys shouldn't summon up the forces of eternal darkness unless they have an adult supervising. I know. But on that sunny night on the 5th of first seed, I didn't want an adult. I wanted Hermaeus Mora, the date of knowledge, learning gums and varnishes. You see, I was told by a beautiful large-breasted man who lived under the library in my hometown that the 5th of the first seed was Hermaeus Mora's night, and if I wanted the Ogma Infinium, the book of knowledge, I had to summon him. And when you're the new king of solitude, every bit of knowledge helps. Normally you need a witch's coven or a mage's guild, or at least matching pillowcases and sheets to invoke a prince of oblivion. But the man under the library showed me how to do it myself. He told me to wait until the storm was at its height before shaving the cat. I've forgotten the rest of the ceremony. It doesn't matter. Someone appeared who I thought was Hermaeus Mora. The only thing that made me somewhat suspicious was Hermaeus Mora, from what I read, was a big, blobby, multi-eyed, clawed monstrosity, and this guy looked like a waist-coated banker. Also, he kept calling himself Sheogorath, not Hermaeus Mora. Still, I was so happy to have successfully summoned Hermaeus Mora. These inconsistencies did not bother me. He had me do some things that didn't make any sense to me beyond the mortal scope, breath, and kin, I suppose. And then his servant happily gave me something he called the Wabbajack. Wabbajack. Maybe the Wabbajack is the book of knowledge. Maybe I'm smarter because I know cats can be bats, can be rats, can be hats, can be gnats, can be that's, can be thices and that doors, can be boars, can be snores, can be floors, can be roars, can be spores, can be yours, can be mine. I must be smart, for the interconnective system is very clear to me. Then why or wherefore do people keep calling me mad? Wabbajack. Oh, I thought that was a funny story to read. All right, so continuing on, I have one more volume to read to you about Sheogorath, and that's called The 16 Accords of Madness, Volume 6. All right. Her scenes tell. Ever proud and boastful Oblivion's mad prince stood 1/5 day of mid-year among the frigid peaks of Skyrim, and beckoned forth her scene for parley. The huntsman god materialized, for this was his day, and the boldness of Sheogorath entreat him. Wry without equal, Sheogorath holds in his realm giggling loons, flamboyant auteurs, and craven mutilators. The mad prince will ply profitless bargains and promote senseless bloodshed for nothing more than the joy of another's confusion, tragedy, or rage. So it was that Sheogorath had set a stage on which to play himself as rival to Hircine. Without haste, the coy prince proffered his contest. Each prince was to groom a beast to meet at this place again, 3 years to the hour, and do fatal battle, expressionless behind his fearsome countenance. Hircine agreed, and with naught but a dusting of snow in the drift, the princes were gone to their realms. Confident, but knowing Sheogorath for a trickster, Hircine secretly bred an abomination in his hidden realm. An ancient Daedroth he summoned and imbued it with the foul curse of lycanthropy, of pitch heart and jagged fang. The unspeakable horror had no peer, even among the great hunters of Hircine's sphere. In the 3rd year, on the given day, Hircine returned, where Sheogorath leaned, cross-legged on a stone, whistling with idle patience. The prince of the hunt struck his spear to the ground, bringing forth his unnatural, snarling behemoth. Doffing his cap, sly as ever, Sheogorath stood and stepped aside to reveal a tiny, colorful bird perched atop the stone. Demurely it chirped in the bristling gusts, scarcely audible. In a twisted, springing leap, the Daedroth was upon the stone, leaving only rubble where the boulder had been. Thinking itself victorious, the monster's bloody maw curled into a mock grin when a subdued song drifted in the crisp air. The tiny bird lightly hopped along the snout of the furious Daedroth. Sheogorath looked on, quietly mirthful, as the diminutive creature picked at a bit of debris caught in scales betwixt the fiery eyes of the larger beast. With howling fury, the thing blinded itself, trying to pluck away the nuisance, and so it continued for hours. Hircine, looking on in shame, while his finest beast gradually destroyed itself in pursuit of the seemingly oblivious bird, all the while chirping a mournful tune to the lonesome range. Livid but beaten, Hircine burned the ragged corpse and withdrew to his realm, swearing in forgotten tongues. His curses still hang in those peaks, and no wayfarer tarries for fear of his wrathful aspect in those obscure heights. Turning on his heel, Sheogorath beckoned the minuscule songbird to perch atop his shoulder and strolled down the mountain, making for the warm breezes and vibrant sunsets of the Abyssinian coast, whistling in tune with the tiniest champion in TAMRIEL. Oh, that's always so much fun, isn't it? It's very fun. Well, let me come over here, because now I think it's time for some fun. So we're going to, we're going to have some fun. But you know what? I did find a book, a skill book, that caught my interest, and well, I just thought I might share it with you briefly. So give me 1 second while I find it here. It's oh yes, it's quite interesting, and so maybe I can open up and find one of these. But let me see. Yes, here it is. Here it is. It's called Who Are the Wardens? Who Are the Wardens by Lady Cinnabar of Tanith. In Frathis of Elenhir's spurious essay, A Story of Blood, the Spinners Take Tamriel, he argues in his trademark, imaginative style that the Wardens of the Wilds are a militant faction of the wood elf priests known as the Spinners. I believe this assertion is either the result of a lack of proper academic rigor or, just as likely, an attempt to manufacture controversy to appeal the masses. Now, in my own meticulous research, I have certainly found some similarities between the Spinners and Wardens, like the wood elf priests. These guardians appear to have close connection with the god Ifri, the deity of song and forest. However, in my opinion, this is where the similarities end. And just as I did with the famous coven in my seminal work, The Glamoury Weird, do you remember that? I shall take it upon myself to dispel the many myths and misunderstandings associated with these warriors. First and foremost, the Spinners are not militant or violent, preferring to allow others to fight for them, and Valen would, and to instead take on an adversarial, scholarly, or priestly role within Bosmere society. By comparison, Wardens appear to be more than willing to shed blood to protect the wilds, and there are many reports of them attacking individuals, gangs, and even entire outposts that have done some harm to Ifri's realm. There also appear to be stark differences in the Warden's powers from those of the Spinners. While the Bosmere priests reportedly draw stories from their past, present, and future to entrance their audience, Wardens seem to draw upon their natural environment to change and shape reality itself. In layman's terms, something I think my colleague Frathis may appreciate, the Spinners appear to employ a kind of illusionary magic, whereas the Wardens' abilities are more akin to what might traditionally be called alteration or conjuration. And while the Spinners are a unique priestly order that is central to Bosmere culture, my studies have found no singular body or organization that represents the Wardens, and indeed they appear to mostly travel alone or in pairs. Beholden to nobody, if they are members of any groups, it is the First Fighters or Mages Guild, or even, in one poorly documented case, a member of the Dark Brotherhood. Given their association with Ifri, are the Wardens predominantly wood elves? It does not seem so. While Spinners are exclusively made up of Bosmere, Wardens of all races, man, mere, or beast, that can be found protecting Tamriel's wilds. Indeed, I have met Wardens who hailed from the northernmost peaks of High Rock and from the southern forests of Elsewhere. I have even met a fellow native of Hammerfell. And what of the Green Pact? Do the Wardens adhere to the ancient wood elf tradition? With the exception, of course, of those who are both Warden and wood elf, this does not appear to be the case either. And in my experience, most Wardens are, in fact, more than willing to make full use of nature's bounty in order to survive, including taking of both its plant and animal life. Finally, the Spinners are found almost exclusively within the confines of Valenwood, and they rarely venture far beyond the protection of its ancient forests. Wardens, however, appear all over Tamriel, with the most recent reports placing some on the island of Vardenfell. And these are my early findings on the Wardens of Tamriel. They are a unique and mysterious group similar to the Spinners, but also distinctly different. It is clear to me that greater academic inquiry is required, and I am sure, under further investigation, the rest of gratis of Eldhair's outrageous claims will be proven false, as they so often are. So there you go, Wardens. That's in your honor. All right, for fun, we must have some fun. So let me see. I need to go to a book called Houses, Shops, and Trade. Here we go. Because I love cooking, you all know how much I love cooking. I've came across a book called Aunt Anela's Cookbook. Oh yes, she gives us some interesting recipes. I thought I would share them with you. The first one is called Yaga. Set several shallow pans of boiled pig's meat, milk cream, where the cat can't step on them, and leave alone for a day, and then stir several times per day thereafter. Strain the whey into a separate vessel, keeping the curds in their pans. Break the curds apart with a spoon, then allow the curds to dry into shards. Stir daily to keep them from spoiling, and once dry, use these shards to thicken skimmed pig's milk or to add more cream to plain pig's milk. Bottle and let ferment for 3 weeks. Note that you can't drink the whey immediately or use it in other recipes. Okay, well, blood froth. Pour fresh blood into shallow pans and place in the cold cave till nearly congealed. Meanwhile, whip together a couple of chicken egg yolks and melted tallow. Using a sharp knife, slice the blood into chunks, then dice. And this is why you let it congeal first, right? It's impossible to dice fresh blood. And whip the blood slivers with the yolks and tallow, adding more tallow if needed to thin into a beverage. Add salt to taste. Set aside for a month to allow it to ferment. Wow. Fermented honey liquor. Combine 2 hives of strained honey with twice the amount of water and a handful of hops. Cover and let ferment for a season before tasting. Ladle into bottles, seal them with beeswax, and put away. The longer you let the bottles sit, the better the liquor will be. Well, there you have it. She gave us some really interesting, kind of like drinks, foodstuffs. One even almost sounds like it's kind of like a smoothie. All right, so did you know the meat that you can use to create soup? Well, first of all, meat for soup would be lizard, because it's crusty. Mud crab, because, well, it's tasty. Jackal, it's gamey. Rat, it's good for snacks, not soup, okay? And goblin, oh, it's nasty. Do not eat that. All right, and then because we were looking at dark meats, here's on the brewing of dark meat beer. This might be of interest to some of you. So on the brewing of dark meat beer, first of all, it takes years for all the meat and bugs to fall in, and they have to fall naturally. Crosswings have a fierce bitterness when they die, afraid. Then you must stretch 17 strings of the thinnest alphagut over each barrel and press added meat into the strings, being careful not to let any fall before it has properly rotted. And then dust the meat with the finest chopped skins of the red striped frog to make sure the crosswings are drunk and happy when they hit the drink. Well, okay, so you do this every month for 3 or more years until you have enough meat and bugs to fill the barrel. And that's not even counting the enchantments. You must have spells to attract the crosswings and mimics, and spells to keep out the flipbacks, tree hoppers, and horvor larvae. And there are spells to encourage the green mold and prevent the brown and white molds. And then you have to seal the barrel for 9 or more years until the last of the green mold turns. And good thing, we have long lives, eh? Well, this was the anonymous Bosmere brewer. Okay, so well, well, okay, so someone gave me some of that food to try, and I just wanted to share it with you. Yeah. All right. So let's try it. Here's the meal. I'm not. Okay. Let me try some of this. This dark meat beer. I'm gonna throw up. I'm so sorry. Please excuse me. Okay. I think I'm okay now. Oh boy. Let me tell you something. Sometimes the recipes sound much better than they are. You know, I'm a high elf, and I don't mind eating strange foods, right? I mean, after all, yeah, it's all available, but that, I think that was the worst thing I've ever eaten. I want to show you something. I want to show you my art gallery. It's not done yet. Yep, here's my art gallery. Isn't it beautiful? It's just filled with beautiful images and landscapes and puzzles. Just all kinds of very interesting images for us to see and consider visiting. Yep. I still have one spot left for one perfect. Oh yes, here's my dark anchor opinion. I guess I could deactivate so all the date would go away. There we have it. Oh yes, the endless archive. And doesn't that look just enchanting? Galen is so wonderful. I don't even know if that's really Galen. Nag. Well, my friends, don't mind that thing up there. I guess we've come to the end of our time together today, so I just wanted to have a breath of fresh air and come out here and go into the garden and breathe. I really hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And I hope you enjoyed today's TAMRIEL Storyteller Hour. And, well, I do hope that you'll return again. Thank you for tuning in. And see you next time. Bye, everyone. Hey, TJR, nice you're here. Bye-bye.